Shua Tov, everybody, good week, and Shalom Aleichem again. We are on TorahAnytime.com. On the Parsha this week, we're going to have a Parsha, a double header Parsha. We have to have Chayei Sara and Toldot, because Chayei Sara we didn't do for certain technical reasons. And this week is Toldot, so we'll do a little bit of Chayei Sara and a little bit of Toldot. So let's talk about Chayei Sara a little bit. Now, before we start about Chayei Sara, Vayera, remember I asked you the question, well, on Kol Haloshan, I asked the question, and I gave my cell phone number all over the world. Well, Kol Haloshan is all over the world. If anyone can answer this mystery, and I'm going to say it again, but this will be the last time that I'm going to say it. It's like a mystery. And the Malachim came to Avraham, and they said, a year from now, we'll be back, and Sarah will have a child. She's 90, and he's 100, 99. And a year from now, he'll be 100, she'll be 90, and she'll have a child. So they put a scratch on the wall, and they said, when the son comes back to this spot next year, she'll have a child. So every day of the year, the sun at the same time during the day is not at the same spot. 12 o'clock on one day is not the same 12 o'clock the next day, because the sun comes up in due east only on the equinox, and then it goes a little to the right, and then it comes back and goes a little to the left. So it's never, ever, ever the shadow of the sun, the mark, on the exact spot, except once a year. And you know, they came on Pesach, because he told his wife, Lushiva, si ugos, make ugos. I mean, they came to Lot the same day, he made ugos. So ugos is round crackers, that means Pesach. And we know the Yisrael was born on Pesach, and the 15th night of Pesach, 15th night of Nisan, first night of Pesach, and we know that 400 years later, at the moment of his birth, they got out of Mitzrayim in the year 2448 at midnight on the first night of Pesach, when they had to save him. Now I'm going to ask you the $64,000 question. When you have a certain Jewish calendar date, and it's on the lunar calendar, another date, they have to come together, a year later, they're 11 days apart, because the solar calendar has 365 and a quarter days, and the lunar, which we have, is 354. That's 11 days less. So how could they say we'll be back next year when the sun is at this spot, which is true. The sun could be at a certain spot once a year, at a certain spot, on a certain day, at a certain time, once a year. But how could it be the same day in the Jewish calendar? When we, in the solar calendar is 365 and a quarter, and the lunar is 354, and that's 11 days left. So how could it be the same day next year? It has to be at least 11 days off. And we know that they came on Pesach, first day, and Yisrael was born on the first day, the first night of Pesach. We know that because we went out of Mitzrayim on the 15th of Nisan. That was exactly 400 years after he was born. How is that possible? Anybody in the world listening to this, any country in the world, Israel, the U.S., United Kingdom, South America, North America, anywhere, United States, Australia, anywhere, can anyone call my number if you have the answer to that? The number is 845-826-4789. That's my cell phone. 845-826-4789. That's a mystery. A $64,000 question. And they came on Pesach, and Yisrael was born on Pesach. Very good, but how could it be the same solar day? At least 11 days off. And you know the Jewish calendar is first year of it starts, it's 11 days behind the sun, because it's 354, and that's 365. Then the next year is 22, next year is 33, and then they fix it up with a leap year to put it back together. All right, see if you know the answer to this question. Now we go into Chayei Sara a little bit, then we go into Toldot. It says here, in the Mayon base, I show Eva, my father's Sefer. By Yocham, he got up and he bowed down to the Am Haaretz, that means the city council, who controlled the zoning laws and which part of the field should be kavadim, a cave, burial places which should be regular. They controlled the zoning. They're the city council. And it says Abram got up and bowed down to them, says, "Thank you very much, gentlemen, but no thanks. I want to meet your boss, Ephraim ben Sochar. I want to buy his cave." Because Abram knew that in the cave of him was Adam and Chava. And he knew by Nevuah that he and Sarah will be there. And Yitzchak and Rivka and Rachel and Leah. And Yaakov and Leah. So he bowed down to them. It says here, we learn from this, Kibdu es Avraham, when they honored Avraham, and they called him Nesi Elokim, a prince of God, because they knew he was the holiest man in the world, because he was the one that was selected by God when he was thrown as a young man in a Kivshan Aish. He didn't burn by the king of the world, Nimrod, and obviously he got around, and he defeated the giant generals, big 4 kings. Abram was a very great man. They say you're in the sea of the king. He bowed down to them. How can you bow down to people? And so he bowed down to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, represented by these people who have a neshama. When the 3 guests came to him, he also bowed down to them, because they were God's agents in the guise of people to do Hakanos Orchim. So when he bowed down to Hashem, the people thought he was bowing down to them. He was doing Bittul Hayesh. He was nullifying himself. The Gamri Kedei Lahosir, to move Kol Shemetz Gaiva, any drop, stain, touch of Gaiva arrogance that may come to him, because they called him Nesi Elokim, a prince of God. To get this out of his system, he bowed down and humbled himself. That it shouldn't make any roshim on him. He humbled himself, lay down on the ground in front of them, that he should be nothing in their eyes, that none of their praises should go on him. There was a very, very, very holy man in Monsey, New York. Very big tzaddik, one of the Lamavov tzaddikim. He was honored by the main yeshiva of Monsey, the guest of honor. He didn't want it. For years they begged him. Years. Finally, one year they were in such dire straits. They begged him, "You'll bring in the people." So he accepted. And they honored him, and they talked about him for 2-3 hours. At the dinner, they talked about him, the mood, all about him. You know what that man did the next day? He went to the mikveh early in the morning, and he fasted the entire day to take out any drop of gaiva maybe that he would have. That's what Avraham did when he bowed down to these people, because they called him the Sea of Akim. He says to Eliezer, "Get away from my son, and I'm going to make you swear by the God of heaven and earth. Asher lo sikach isha, don't take a woman, livni, for my son, bebenos haknani, from the daughters of the Canaanites, asher anochi Yosef b'kirbo, that I'm living amongst them." But Canaanites at another part, out of the country, okay. Why do that? Because Avraham thought that the Canaanites around him are behaving themselves because of him. But outside the country, if you find a decent girl, then maybe if the Rivka doesn't, later I found out it was Rivka, she doesn't want to come, you can take the people, maybe the Canaanites, from not in this country. Because he thought they're decent only because of Avraham. Because I happen to live amongst them. Shani, it says, Shanochi Yoshe Bekirbo, because I'm amongst them. That's why they're nice and respectful. Rak al Yidei Hishpati Hashpo'osi, my effect on them. They are acting nice. That's not good enough. I don't want that. So then he went to get Rivka, and when he got her, he said that to himself. He was saying, if I say I need water, and the first girl that comes down here, I'm going to say, if I need water, give me, and she will also give my camel. She's the one. So as soon as he was talking to himself, this girl showed up, who happened to be Rivka, and he saw her going to the spring, because she was taking water for human consumption, because the be'er, the well where the spring runs into, and the water sits there for days and weeks, that is for animals. So he saw she went down into a spring, they had steps around it, because sometimes in certain seasons the water goes down. So she went down like that to go to the spring where the water shoots up. Sometimes it shoots up into a well. So she went down to get some water. It says, Va'ish mishtoilo. The man was astonished, gazing at her. Why were you gazing? Machrish ladas. Not sure to know, Hasliach Hashem Dargom Lo, did God make his way successful or not? What do you mean? He said to himself, and the water girl comes, I go over to a girl and say, could you give me a little drink? And she'll say, yes, you and all your camels also, 10 camels, and each one brings 14 gallons, that's 140 gallons. Then I'll know she's the one. So, as soon as he finished talking to herself, a girl came, happened to be a girl, and he says, could you give me something to drink? She's, yes, and your camels too. And she ran down into the well, to the spring to get water. He was astounded. He didn't know if this was the right girl. What do you mean? You just said that if the girl will say this and this and this, I know it's the right one. The Ve'ish Mishtoi, he was astounded. He was astonished. Did God give Hatzlich Hashem Darkon Lo? Did God make him successful or not? What do you mean? There's the sign. Two answers. He saw that when she was going down to get the water started coming up to her. He knew she was a tzedekis, and he ran. He thought she was going to be drowned. So he ran to save her. The second explanation is, did God make his way hatzlocha or not? She's a fine girl. But does she come from the right family? Because that would be two conditions. From the family and the Beth Midos. And the third question, is she doing this because I have 10 camels over here and I'm a rich fellow? 10 camels loaded with goods and jewelry. Maybe she's doing it to get paid. That's what he was wondering. Is she doing it for schar? How come the water's coming up to her? And it's coming up so fast. He thought she's going to get drowned. He ran to save her. That's what the Mayan says. He wasn't sure what was her motive. And when the camels were finished drinking, then he was sure she's the one. Because he should have said, well, I'll give you and I'll give the camel, but in the middle, maybe she'll quit. Till it was all over, and then the man knew at that time that she was emes. Maybe in the middle she'll back out, stop, there's too much work, I changed my mind, I can't do it. Then the man knew that this was Min HaShamayim. And the last piece from the Mayan on Chayei Sara. So they finally, she came home with Eliezer and the 10 camels and all the men that came with them. 10 camels, you need people to help you along the way. 420 miles and 17 days. Okay, it only took 1 hour, but it could have taken a long time. You need people, tend to camels. And they came to the house and he said, I'm not going to eat anything till I tell you my story. I'm Evan Avram. I'm not Avram. I'm Evan Avram. And my master's very rich, and he gave everything he owns to his son. And here's the shtar, the document to show that he already, as of this moment, inherited everything from his father. If this girl comes with me, she's not going to stay poor until the old man dies. No, he's already Yitzchak has everything. And they said, okay, good. Hashem Yosef Chaim, the Lavan and the father. Lavan answered before his father. That's how you know he's a Russia. He said, Hashem Yosef Chaim, the thing came out from God. The managers are made in heaven and nothing to say. Done deal, take the girl and go. So he gave out presents, Eliezer, and they went to sleep. Next morning, the mother and the son say to Eliezer, Not the father, because he dropped dead that night. So the Malach killed him for 2 reasons. Because the meal they had the night before, Eliab Besuel, who was a lowlife, because he was the priest of that neighborhood, and then the people, there was such a filthy custom that every girl that gets married has to sleep with Besuel first. Besulo, turn that Lamed Aleph around, Aleph Lamed, Lamed Aleph, even though Besulo is spelled with a hey, but you don't pronounce the hey, and you don't pronounce the Aleph if you put it on the end, Besulo. So he slept with everyone, the girl said, he said, we'll let you sleep with our daughters on one condition. When your daughter gets engaged, you have to sleep with her too. Amalek came and killed him. The other second reason is when they were eating the night before, he wanted to poison Eliezer and take all the money on those 10 camels. So they were giving out the food, and one of the portions had poison in it. So they made a mistake with Suel. He had that portion. He ate it and poisoned himself. Could have been one of these 2 reasons. But anyhow, next morning the mother and the Lavan said, we change our mind. Let her stay here a year or 10 months, and then we'll decide. So look what the Mayan says. Yomer Achel ve'ima, her brother and her mother said, Teishav anari itani yomim, let she stay a year, or Esther, or 10 months, and then she can go. This seems strange. Hadover, Shahari Esmo, last night you said, May Hashem Yosef Hadover, Lavan and the father and the mother said, from heaven, this has come out, it's a done deal. We can't talk to you good or bad. Here's Rivka, take her and go. And over the night they changed their mind. Chazru, Vahem, V'ro'u, La'akibas, they wanted to prevent this whole deal from going through. Nireh, you know what you see from this, says the Mayan? Nireh, Shezu, Haiso, Elo. This was a strategy, Me'akadosh Baruch Hu, put in their mind to do this. Shelo yelhem shum chelek. They should have no chelek b'shiduch zeh, in this shidduch, in building the Jewish family. Because remember, from Rachel comes the firstborn Jew. Yitzchak was the firstborn Jew, to marry to him. Kedei shelo yeh shum taruvos. There should be no mixture. Zechus of the virtue of Rishoyim that they permitted this shidduch. The Yetziras Klal Yisrael in the formation of the Jewish people, they shouldn't have, that those Rishoyim should have no chelik in the creation of the Jewish people, no chelik in building because they're Rishoyim the morning. So Hashem put in their mind to say no the next morning. So Eliezer said, okay, have a nice life, let me go. No, you're not going to let a man with 10 camels, the richest man in the Middle East, walk out. You're going to say, wait a minute. Let's call the girl. So the night before he bowed down, Eliezer, because he heard good news, because they said, take her and go. Hey, wait a minute, no one talked to the Kala yet. Why don't you ask the Kala? Oh, you want to say she's a Katana, less than 3? So why does the Torah call her Nara, which means minimum of 12? And then she says she's a Basula, a Ishla Yada, no man knew her. Of course, if you're less than 3, no one knows you. So she was a Nara, says the Medrash. She was 11 years old when Yitzchak 3 years ago, before this, had an Akedah. Now she's 14. 11 and 3 is 14. Then the Medrash, she was 14. 11 years at the Akedah, she got the Neshama of Sarah. So she has a brand new Neshama. She's 3 years old as far as the Neshama is concerned. Because the Ger, if he's 40 years old, becomes the Ger, he has a brand new Neshama. So this woman got this Rivka, Sarah died at the Akedah, and Rivka got the Neshama at 11. She's a 3-year-old Neshama. Spiritually, she's 3 years old. Physically, she's 11. Now she's 14, 3 years later. Others want to say, like the Orach HaChaim, because she's talking 3 years old. There's reasons to say that. How do they call her Nara? Okay, she was very mature at 3 years old. She could feed drag up 140 gallons, 14 gallons per 10 camels. 140. All right, Machlok is how old she was. Anyhow, the Mayan says they refused the next morning. So Eliezer said, good, let me go. They said, wait a minute, hold it, let's call the girl. And they said, you want to go with this man? So the answer should have been no or yes. She didn't answer either of those things. She said, Eilech, I'm going. With or without your permission. And even if he doesn't want to take me, I'm going to follow him. I am going. Because this is my chance, and she didn't say that, this is my chance to get out of a family of Rishoyim and scoundrels. Look at this, Rivka comes from a family of Rishoyim. And she has a son, Esau, that came from a family of Tzaddikim. From here you learn free choice. She decided to be good, even though she has evil parents. And Esau decided to be bad, even though he had Tzaddikim parents. Every one of us has free choice. That's right. Now let's go to the Parsha of Toldos. And you're going to learn here in Toldos one of the most astounding things, that the Torah seems to destroy its own premise of free choice. Look, the Eidah told us Yitzchak ben Avram. These are the generations of Yitzchak ben Avram. First question, you don't start off a sentence, a subject, brand new with the word ve, and. That comes later. You don't open a book in the first chapter and say, and then we went to Chicago. You don't do that. Why say the, and these are the Toldos of Yitzchak, and number 2, why isn't Toldos written correctly with 2 vavs? It's written with 1 missing vav. Yitzchak ben Avram. These are generations of Yitzchak ben Avram. Avram holy this Yitzchak. Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. Wait a minute. The man's 40 years old already. Everybody knows that. The whole last Parsha is talking about that. So we have 3 questions on the first segment, on the first pasuk. Ve'ela. So the Baal Turim says that the last Parsha, ve means connection, right? It's a conjunction. And, you and me, that's a conjunction. Baal Turim says the last Parsha says that Shmuel died. It says he died in front of all his brothers. Al Pnei Kol Echov Nafal, he fell. And Shmuel represents Muslims. Says the Baal Turim 800-900 years ago, when the last campaign is over, when Yishmael is disseminated, decimated, destroyed, then Eila told us Yitzchak ben Israel. Now is the rebirth of the Jewish people. Mashiach will come immediately after the destruction of Yishmael. So there's connection. But there's only one problem. If this is smichos, this was the last Parsha smichos. Why is the last Parsha have pay? Whenever you have samach, or pay, it's a break, new beginning. Pesucha means open space in the Torah. There's no connection, new subject. Why do you have pay if it's connected? Answer is pay. Pesucha in the Torah. There's an empty space, a new subject. When Yishmael is totally finished, done, destroyed, then Ve'ele told us then there's a new rebirth of Klal Yisrael. That's Mashiach. Means it has to be totally over. That's the connection. Then it'll be Ve'ele. And then another reason. We just told you about Yishmael and all his 12. They mentioned his name. 12 of his sons and 7 of his children and grandchildren and 6 of the great grandchildren. Together there's 16. 6 children and 7 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren, 16. After you finish with all that, then he says, and by the way, also, I want to tell you the main subject of this book here, Torah, is these are the children of Yitzchak. And let's go now to the main subject. That's another reason. And we told you one vav is missing because one of Yitzchak's children is a Russia. And when it says, Eila told us Yishmael last week, both vavs are missing. Because all vav and vav is 12. All 12 are Rishoyim. And when it tells you, Zeh Sefer Toldos Adam, in the beginning of Torah, it has one vav missing because one of Adam's children was bad. That was Cain. And then it says, Eila Toldos Noach, one vav is missing because Chum was bad. He made it, his son, or him, had relations in the table. Eila told us Esau, one vav is missing because he had one son who was Alifas. He had Ruach HaKodesh in the beginning of his life. Then he became evil and he had Molech as a son. Eila told us Yishmael, both vavs are missing because all vav and vav, all 12 of them are showing. Eila told us Peretz, 2 vavs are in. All his children are tzaddikim. Eila told us Shemayim Ba'aretz, the beginning of the Chumash, 2 vavs because everything Hashem made is good, Tov Ma'od. So whenever you have the word told those with vavs, without vav, one vav, you should know it has to do with what this man produced. So Eila Toldot with one vav, which means Yitzchak had one son of wicked, Esau. Abraham gave birth to Yitzchak, but that was 40, 60 years ago. Answer is, when Yitzchak gave birth to Esau, that's coming up in the Parsha, they said it can't be that a grandson of Avram could be that evil. It must have been that Avram's wife Sarah was taken by Abimelech. And then, of course, when they found out that they looked the same, they were twins. Yitzchak and Yaakov and Esau were twins. It seems they looked exactly like their father Yitzchak, and Yitzchak looked like their father Avram. So they all looked exactly like. They were icons of each other. Okay, and Yitzchak was 40 years old. Now it's 20 years later. Because he had 60, Yaakov and Esau were born. Yitzchak ben Aboim Shani was 40 years old. Because Rivka, when he took Rivka, Bas Besuel, the daughter of Besuel, the Russia. How Aramic, who comes from Aram. Aram is two Aram. One is Syria, Aram Soba, and there's Aram Naharayim, the Aram between the two rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates. We call that Iraq. But on top of that, to the left, that's Syria. Damascus, Syria, that's Aram Tzova, that's a different Aram. Anyhow, maybe Aram, Mipadan Aram from the fields of Aram, that's Iraq. Achos Lavan, the sister of Lavan, a wicked man. There's nothing good about that man except his name. Lavan means white and clean. There's nothing clean about him except the name. Rami, he's also, now Ram means Babylonian, but also means Ramoi, a cheat, deceiver. Ramai is in Aramaic, a deceiver. Lo, Isha took her for a wife. But yet Yitzchak, the Hashem and Yitzchak, prayed to God very strongly. He wanted a bad child. And Lenochach Ishto about his wife, or Rashi says opposite his wife. He was in that corner and she was in that corner. Why can't they be together? They both prayed to God because he didn't want to pray next to his wife. You know why? They were praying for a child, that a child should turn out to be wonderful. Not like Yitzchak's uncle Yishmael. That he should be a tzaddik. So Yitzchak was praying in the corner, the child should be like my father Avram. And she was praying in the corner, she didn't want to embarrass herself. She says, I wish the child turns out like my father-in-law, not like my father, Besuel. So he was in that corner, she was in this corner. And what do you know? Which one did God answer? She's a Balas Tshuva, from a family of scoundrels. She should have been answered. Akara she was she was by nature, and Akara, she was barren, but it's written Hey of Aleph, without the vowels, it means who. He was sterile too, by the way. And she was barren, two people could not have a child. And Hashem made a nace. But Hashem, and God answered him, not her. The Tar Rivka Ishta, his wife, became pregnant after 20 years, because now your child was born when Yitzchak was 60. He got married in 40, which is 3 years after that Kedah at 37. And so why did God answer him? But what means Vayeh Oser? And Rashi says, an atar is a pitchfork. You know what that is? You work in a barn, you have a pitchfork, you have 3 or 4 tongues, you take the hay and the manure, you throw it from here over there. Which means he prayed to God so much for years, till God decided to go from Midas Hadin to Midas Harachimim, and made for her a nay. She got a uterus, and he was cured from sterility, and they had a child. Wow! So he, Kara he, but it's written with a vav, means could be who too. And God answered him because she is praying for a child to be like her father-in-law Abraham, and he is praying for a child to be like his father Abraham, and therefore God answered him because of the yichus. We're talking about the child. We're not talking about which one of the two are more bigger tzaddik. Maybe Rivka is the biggest tzaddikus. We're talking about the child. Abraham already has a yichus. Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. It has certain. There's a chazaka there. She doesn't have that chazaka. So therefore, it says the tefillah of a tzaddik ben tzaddik is answered before it's the tefillah of a tzaddik ben rasha. That's why he answered him, not because she's any less, because they want this to continue this yichus into the third generation. So it has to be his yichus, still Avram. So by Yisroel to Havana Bikir, and the children were racing or pushing or disturbing her inside her uterus. The Yomer, she says, Cain, if that's the case, what do I need this for? So much pain. She went to find out from God through a Navi how this all works. Why is she having so much pain? They were pushing inside of her to get out. Yeah.
I understand that God listens to the prayers of a son of a righteous person more than the daughter of a non-righteous person, etc. But do we know which one of these two people prayed with more sincerity?
Both were exactly the same. From the Parshat there, both the same tzaddikim. The only reason God answered him, not because he's a bigger tzaddik, because he has yichus. Chazaka, she doesn't have that, that's all. We're talking about the child. She had already come out as a winner. That he has already something going for him. He's a tzaddik ben tzaddik ben tzaddik already. He's a tzaddik ben tzaddik. That's why he answered him, not because she's any less. Okay, but he throws us up on the Bikir, but here comes the greatest attack on Jewish principles, as you would think the Torah is self-destructing. They were fighting inside of her. They were pushing. It says here, when the children were already fully developed, when he went past the house, when people were talking about monotheism, about Torah, about Yaakov wanted to come out. When they were facing a pagan temple, he wanted to come out, Asa. So you already see prenatally they're already disposed to these two different derachim. Like so, it's a bottom here, but Tomer, she says to Cain, if that's the case, so much pain. What I need this for? She shouldn't have said that. God has a reason. You know how many letters there are over here? Im, Cain, Lamuzeh, Anochi, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 letters. She was supposed to have all the 12 Shvatim and Dinah, which is 13. She blew it. And she only had 2. 1. And in fact, she had 2 children, but not 13. She went to find out from God. That from Malki Tzedek, who was a Navi, and he was a tzaddik. His real name was Shem, son of Noah. He was already 600 years old. And she wanted to say, what does God want from me here? Don't explain this to me. Rabbi side, why did she go to her husband, the Gadol Hador, or her father-in-law, bigger Gadol Hador? Why did she go to a stranger? The answer is Rashi, because God wanted them to know. They would know why this is going on in fight. It's a terrible fight going on inside of her. They would have known if God wanted them to know. He would have told the Yitzchak or the father-in-law, Avram. So you had to go to a stranger. So the stranger said, Shnei goyim b'vitnek. You have 2 opposing forces inside of you. Now I want to ask you a question. They're already fighting internally. Esau was a wicked man prenatally. So was Yaakov and Tzaddik prenatally. So if it's all programmed prenatally, why are you punished if you're bad and rewarded if you're good? Why is there in the next world more reward and punishment? Where's your free choice? You're programmed. You can't do anything about it. You're done before you're born. Why you punish anybody? Why you reward anybody? It's all, you're a robot. You have no choice. Some people come out very holy and wonderful and they love Torah and mitzvahs. Other one can't stand it. No one. It's free. Here, by your throat, so I want to be careful already internally. This is a destroyer of the concept of free choice. And to make this thing more explosive, look what it says in Tehillim Nun Ches. This will blow your mind. Says David HaMelech, Nun Ches Pasuk Daled, Zoru Rishayim Meirochem, and the lawless are estranged from God from the mother's womb already. Zoru, Zor, estranged, Rishoyim Meirochem from the rechem, from the womb. Ta'uz mibet in divrei chazov. Liars go astray from birth. Ta'u, they go away, mibet and divrei chazov, the words of the liars. You got no chance. You're born. There's no. Why is there a reward and punishment? There is no free choice. This blows the whole Yiddishkeit right out of the water. Rasha, The utter lack of willingness to submit to the divine moral law as ascribed to a character inclination which is acquired at conception and makes it difficult for a person to practice moral obedience. David HaMelech wrote this. Now let me tell you the answer why you have free choice. At the end of the same kapitel, says a pasuk which answers our question. Pasuk Yud Aleph. Yismach tzadik yichaz anakum. That tzadik is happy when he sees revenge. Pa'omav yirchatz v'dam harasha. His feet he'll wash in the blood of the rasha. And last pasuk, number 12. Vayomer Adam, and the man says, means a rasha. Ach pri la tzadik. Yes, there is fruit, payoff to be a tzaddik. Ach yesh Elohim, there is a God, shoftim bars, that judges on earth. You know what we're saying here, Rabbi Chaim? That tzaddik is born with certain from tendencies, and he loves Yiddishkeit and frumkeit, he doesn't like anything else, and he's very religious, and by nature you see little children and little kids and then teenagers. But then they have a stronger yetzer hara for bad than their friend. Because God, kol hagodol mechaveru, yisur god haimenu. The bigger you are in ruchnius, the greater is your yetzer hara. And that yetzer hara comes and fights that holy tendency, so it equals out. Because the tzaddik really, why you see, he thinks, why shouldn't I play around and fool around and have a good life with all the so-called forbidden pleasures like everybody else? I'm so unique and different. Why don't I join the crowd? I'm a loner all by myself. He has a tremendous yetzer hara to go bad because he's bigger than his friends. He has a desire, this holy tendency, but it's counterbalanced by this desire to be like everybody else. And those two things equal themselves out. Therefore, you have free choice. The Rasha, he is an evil man. He's caught. He's going to be hung or give malchus or stay in jail for the next 20 years. And he thinks while he's in jail, now wait a minute, hold it. Everybody's not in jail. Most people are not going to be hung or beaten or whipped or spend the 30 years in jail. So maybe I'm not living the right way. So that's his counterbalance. That's what the Navi says. Yismach tzaddik, the tzaddik sees finally at the end that it does pay off to be from Yismach tzaddik yichaz anakum. He sees revenge. Palm of his feet means that he didn't walk in the way of the rasha. Yirchatz, he'll wash the dam harasha and the blood of the rasha, which means thank goodness I didn't go that way. I see it pays off to be a tzaddik. And the rasha vayomer Adam, the rasha says, yes, maybe I messed up my life. It really pays to be a tzaddik. Ach pri la tzaddik, there's a fruit, there's a payoff for the tzaddik. It's taka better to be a tzaddik. Ach yesh Elohim, there is a God. Everything will be paid for. Shoftim bars, he will judge people on earth. So that tzaddik has his great desire. And that counterbalances his from tendencies. And at the end of his life, he sees, taka, it's good that I stayed like this. And the rasha has his tremendous desire to do evil, but then he sees not everybody's in jail or is going to be executed or incarcerated. And then he thinks at the end, right, maybe the tzaddik is right. Ach pri la tzaddik, there is fruit for the tzaddik. There's going to be payoff for the tzaddik. So both of them eventually come to equal forces, and there is free choice. That's the genius. Go look at Tillim and all the Mefarshim and Hirsch. She went to find out from Hashem through Malki Tzedek, which is Shem, about 580 years old. Yom Hashem Allah, Hashem told her, Shnei Goyim b'vitnei, 2 nations are in you. Now the Goyim is written Gimel Yud Yud Mem. Goyim, 2 great powers are in you, which means Esav has the power to be just as great as Yaakov. Not a scholar, not a learner, but to protect his brother with the sword. Free choice. You could kill him with the sword. Shem, on the other hand, has the same free choice. to be the man of the spirit, the concept, the idea, or he has a choice to destroy the world with kafira, wrong concepts. Christianity, Reform Judaism, communism, which is a Jewish thing. Apocarsis, to take the Torah and twist it around. Communism, 3/4 of man, half of mankind were enslaved with communism, a Jewish idea from Karl Marx. And Lenin had a Jewish father, even though he wasn't Jewish, but he was a Jewish father. So you see that the Shem, the name, could destroy the world. That's, people fought for centuries, wars for ideas, wars of ideas. Religions killed each other. So, Shnei Goyim Vitnei, he says that you could be great people. Goyim means Goyim is written, two aristocrats. The peak that ever was the Roman Emperor. Marcus Aurelius Antoninus was a friend of Rebbe. Rebbe was the richest man in the world. And Rebbe made Marcus Aurelius Antoninus into a Baal Tshuva, by the way, into a ger. And then he loved Rebbe. And they became the two friends, the Roman Empire and Rebbe, who was the author of the Mishnah. They were living at the same time. It is possible to coexist with a decent guy. Shnei Goyim, two aristocrats, Rebbe and Antoninus, lived at one time. This is the ideal plan for the world. Shnei Goyim b'vitnei, but the spiritual person, the Semite, could destroy the world. You know that Esau is a Semite. He came from Shem, Yaakov's brother. So is Yishmael. So the wickedest people in the world, some of them are Semites. They could destroy the world with false, wicked ideas, and some with brute force. Type 4, two types of governments have already separated themselves from you prenatally. They're disposed to these two derachim. One will fight, one will be stronger than the other. Maybe he's up and then he's down, he's up. Rav Yavatzor, at the end of time when Mashiach comes, Rav, the one who is the more number and more property, more owner, bigger person in the world, he will serve the younger. That's after Mashiach. Younger is Yaakov. And her days were filled to give birth, full term, 9 months. Hine, surprise. They're so different. How come they're so twins? And they look the same? They're so different. And Hine, surprise, how come they look the same? From here, you know, you can't tell a book by its cover. You could see a very religious man, and he's davening, and he has all the trappings. He could be an absolute swindler. You could see a man that doesn't look like much, doesn't know so much, he doesn't conduct himself so religious. He looks like a very simple man. He could maybe be a tzaddik tamim who never cheated and lied in his life, or spoke one word lashon hara. You can't tell a book by its cover. Hine, surprised. So different than Nabi said, Melchizedek, but look, they're twins. And the word somim is written defectively, because twins in Hebrew is te'umim. Somim, the aleph and the yud is missing. Aleph and yud is 11. 11. She complained, Rivka. In Cain, Anochi, 13 letters, so she could have, like Yaakov had with his 4 wives, 13 children, 12 boys and 1 girl. So she missed that. But here it says 11. She was supposed to have 12 sons. She had 1 son, Yaakov. Should have 11 more. But it came later, the sons, through the 4 wives of Yaakov, not through her. Because she said that, so 11, or she was supposed to have 11 more children, 12 boys. So Tu'umim, So-mim is where it says, but the word is Te'umim. Aleph Yud is 11. The first one came out reddish, ruddy, real healthy, not jaundiced, not yellow. Kula Kaderis, they're all covered over with hair, you know, like a very mature kid. Yikushma Esav, they called him Esav, ready-made. Made. Then his brother came out, and his hand was Ochez's holding Ba'akev, Esav's heel. He really wanted to be born first, Yaakov, that's why he's grabbing the heel. Because Rashi gives the example, when you have a narrow bottle, you put in 1 rock and then the second rock. The first one that's in should come out first. But it doesn't work like that. The second one comes out first. Just like people go to a minyan who really don't want to daven, they come in last and they leave first. People who want to die, but they come in first, they can leave last. So really, Yaakov was created first, and the Esav was created second. So really, the one that's created first should come out first. No, it wasn't like that. He held on to Esav's leg. He said, "Look, I deserve the Bechorim." Meanwhile, they called him heel, Yaakov, holding on to the heel. Yaakov, Shmo Yaakov, and God, Hashem called his name Yaakov. Yitzchak ben Shishishon, Yitzchak was 60 years old. The letters of somebody had gave birth to them. How old was she? Well, if she was married, met her at 3, and then 20 years later she was 23, but if it was 14, and 20 years later she was 34, so, V'yigdal ha'na'arim, and the boys grew older. V'yir ish yodei atzayid, and Esav was a man who knew how to hunt. Ish hasad, the man of the field. Yaakov ish tamam, but Yaakov was a simple person. Not mean simple, perfect, mimus, sincere, not a deceiver like the brother. Yosef was sitting in the tents, plural. Plural? Yeah, Shem and Aver. Shem and Aver, his grandson. They were teaching monotheism. The boys got older. Means they were about bar mitzvah. He ate up ish yodei outside. He knew how to hunt. He was a hunter. Ish saw the man of the field. Why didn't you say, you mean a farmer? So why don't you say ish adama? No. Adama means you work the ground. Ish Sada mean a man of the field where all the trees grow and all the plants, everything's grown. He wasn't a farmer. He was a playboy. He did nothing. He roamed around, says Rashi, and molested people and raped women. He was a nothing, a garnished. And he was a deceiver because his father was blind, Yitzchak, and he came to his father. He says, Father, and he knew that Yitzchak knew that Yaakov was a scholar in learning, and he knew that. And he saw that Esav is not a scholar, but he's a firm person, keeps all the halachas. Because look, the question he asked me, Dad, do you have to give meiser from salt? I know salt is not a food, but it makes all the food taste good, and it preserves meat and everything. Maybe you have to give meiser from salt. So his father said, no, you don't eat salt alone. Do you have to give meiser from grain, from tevin straw? Because straw you give to animals to eat, and then they eat, they get fat, and you kill the animal, and you eat the meat. He says, no, that's not food for human beings. But he asked these questions. He was trying to deceive his father. He wanted to deceive his father. Rashi says he was Sayyid Befim, to cheat his father, to fool his father. How does Rashi learn that? From this pasuk. How do you learn that? Look here, Rabbi says, built right in here. You know the Torah was given continuous letters. Moshe made up words and separated words. Look what it said. V'yigdu ha'na'orim v'yir Esav ish yodeyat sayid. He knew how to hunt. Ish hasada, a man of the field. Look at the words. Ish yodeyat sayid ish. He knew how to hunt a man, how to deceive people, how to trick them. That's why he robbed people along the road. That's why he was he worked for a living. He was molesting people and tricking robber and thief along the road. And even his father he deceived. And his father till the age of 163, when Yaakov and Esav took the bracha from each other, that was 63, and Yitzchak was 60 when he had him, so 60 and 63 is 123. Until 123, Yitzchak was deceived. He thought Esav was a decent person, till his mother played a trick with the skin of the lamb on his arms and his neck, and finally, Yitzchak caught on, and he realized when he gave Yaakov the bracha, Yaakov left the room. A minute later, Esav comes in with the same venison. A different meal. He said, well, I just gave you a bracha. Who are you? I'm Esav, your old. Oh, you're Esav, my oldest son? Who was that one? Oh, it must have been Yaakov. Then he chopped it. Finally said, Gam Baruch Tia, let Yaakov stay blessed. Now I know who you are. He was blind, remember? I know who you are. I know who you are. I see it now. His wife took 60 years to convince him that this first son, Esav, who asked these religious questions, is a fraud. Because you see, she knows frauds. She comes from a family of frauds. And he comes from a family of tzaddikim. They don't know. He wouldn't believe his son is so evil. He was a man who's Sayyid Ish, who hunts men. He deceives people. Okay, Rabbi Sai, That's the end of this year on Toldos. We'll see you next week in Yetz Hashem. But anyone knows the answer to that question? How did the Malachim come? They didn't come back the next year, but I mean, their presence was there next year when the child was born, on the day they predicted it. How could it be the same day solar and lunar when they're off 11 days? Anyone knows that answer? Call me from any place in the world. My cell phone is 845-826-4789. Have a good week.